here on the 16th annual Total Theater Broadway special, and very excited to be talking to someone who's been on almost every one that we have done of these. He's been a very long time theater critic. As a matter of fact, he co-hosts the show Two on the Aisle on Manhattan Cable Television with our other friend, Leslie Hoban Blake. He is also an actor and a writer. He's going to talk a bit about that, and he's going to answer some questions about this past season. So everybody, please, won't you welcome Charles Gross back to the neighborhood. Please unmute, Charlie, and say hi.
Hey, how you doing, David? You know, we go back even further as far as the Tony Awards are concerned, because you used to come on Two on the Aisle with when Jeff Goodman was my co-host, and we do all our Tony predictions together.
That's right.
Occasionally, we even got it right.
Yeah, I forgot. Not that I forgot, but momentarily I forgot that we would all sit down together and argue what we would predict. Yep. This time we're not going to be able to do that for obvious reasons. What do you think is going to happen with the Tonys? Do you think they'll postpone them? Will they lump them in next year with next year's crop of shows? What do you think?
That's hard to say. I think right now they're talking about the possibility of doing them in January, with whatever shows manage to become this season. Apparently there is a problem because there is the concern that a lot of Tony voters did not see some of the more recent shows like West Side Story. So anybody's guess, the Drama Desk Awards, which I'm a proud voting member of the Drama Desk, were supposed to be broadcast last night. They were postponed because of the rioting and protesting in New York, so hopefully we'll be seeing those shortly. The Obies, I think, pre-reported, will be coming.
What I'd like off Broadway, yeah, and off Broadway too, I think, yeah.
What I would personally like to see on CBS, obviously they can't broadcast the Tony Awards, but what they could do is take compilation. Tony Awards have been going on for many decades. And each year they have performances from the nominated shows. And there have been some really excellent ones over the years. I mean, you could think of Patti LuPone, Evita, Andrea McArdle, and Dorothy Loudon in Annie. Even Lucy Arnaz and Robert Klein in They're Playing Our Song. All this to do something. They could easily make an hour or 2 hours special.
And they could bracket it with famous celebrities who are doing now all these Zoom benefits and Zoom shows and have live material being fed in by them, and even live songs by people like Bernadette and the major megastars, the Audras and so forth. But speaking of live of theater on the interwebs, be it video or be it specifically newly created Zoom shows, that's been a thing for the past few weeks now. You must have seen a couple. What's been your favorite Zoom show to watch? Yeah.
Well, before I answer that, very quickly, I just want to point out that there have been some wonderful theater that's just been waiting for us even before this whole thing already started. For example, if you go to Amazon Prime, you can see Kiss Me Kate with the original Broadway leads, Alfred Drake and Patricia Morrison. And it's not politically correct, and all the better for it. But it's from a 1958 telecast, really excellent. If you go on to YouTube, you can see a wonderful version of She Loves Me with Dermot Cavan that was taped by the BBC about 30 years ago. There's a lot there. And in fact, Leslie Hoban Blake and I are working on a podcast where we'll be discussing a lot of these shows. Now, of course, taking out the two shows that I have broadcast on the internet.
What are they? What are the names of those?
How I Found an Affordable Apartment on the Upper West Side of Manhattan Without Really Trying, which we taped at this year's United Solo Festival. So it's the entire live show. You can see this on my YouTube. That's CD, Charles David Gross. And you can also see something that I did live on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and it's called Tales of Stockbridge, which includes an original story about the town of Stockbridge, Massachusetts, and the entire Alice's Restaurant massacre by Arlo Guthrie. Guitar and everything.
Yeah. The second video is about 20 minutes long. The first one is about an hour and change. Yeah, but yeah, definitely worth seeking out. It's CD Gross is Charlie's YouTube channel. But besides your shows,
Two on the Aisle.
Oh, and Two on the Aisle, of course, all those episodes. But tell us about what you've seen Zoom-wise that made your mind zoom.
Well, this was actually, I think, more YouTube than Zoom, but this is one of my favorite plays by A.R. Gurney, Love Letters. And this was a live presentation. Unfortunately, if you didn't catch it live, you're not going to be able to see it, at least no time soon. This was Love Letters with Bryan Cranston and Sally Field in the leads. This is a wonderful play. It's very simple, which is why it's so excellent to do online like this. It takes place over roughly a 50-year period. A man and a woman, both born to privileged United States families, and they communicate. The entire play is letters they have written to each other. So the actors never interact with each other. They never look at each other. They basically sit on it at a desk, and this is how it was done on stage, and they read letters that they have written to each other. And it's an amazing play. Their lives take two very different turns. He becomes a senator. She becomes an artist and, unfortunately, an alcoholic. There are certain parts of it that are said to have been based on Gurney's own life, but it's a wonderful two-act play. And it lends itself, because it is so simple, it lends itself perfectly to a YouTube or to Zoom. You actually might have thought that it would have actually been written for it. Plus, you have the amazing performances. I've been a fan of Sally Field ever since The Flying Nun. Sorry, Sally, I was 5 years old. I didn't even know what a nun was. It was just girl flying. It was pretty cool at the time.
You should apologize to your rabbi, not to Sally Field.
It's amazing.
By the way, I do want to second your. I saw the love letters that you're talking about, and I found it was very, very good. It was touching. It was a really nice production, and Sally Field and Bryan Cranston were matched marvelously. And I know it was done. They revived it on Broadway a couple of years ago with Mia Farrow and not Charles Durning, but the guy
Brian
Brian Dennehy. Yeah, and that supposedly was magnificent too. But it's a fine piece. But I want to have time to talk to you also about our second question, because this is the one you also wanted to answer. Of all time, there's no theater right now on stages, but in your many, many years of theater going, what has been your most profound and amazing memory?
That's a very hard question to answer. I would actually say there are several answers, and I thought about it. And I've been very privileged because I've been a theater critic for many years. I wrote my first Broadway theater review in high school, and I've just seen so much amazing theater. But the one that really came to mind happened to me, I think it was roughly 1976. And it was the revival of My Fair Lady. This was the first revival of My Fair Lady since the original. And I had been introduced to My Fair Lady when my parents showed it to me on television. They said, "Oh, come, this is a movie with Rex Harrison." And I said, "Well, it can't be any better than Dr. Dolittle," but it was. And I was bowled over by it. And I found out my parents had the album with Julie Andrews. It was the London cast, which had the leads identical to the Broadway cast. And I'd listen to this every night. So when I found out it was going to be back on Broadway, I was so excited. And I went in there with such high expectations. And, you go into something like that with just thinking it's going to be the most amazing thing in the world. It's very easy to be disappointed. But I wasn't. I mean, you had Ian Richardson as Higgins, Christina Andreas playing Eliza, George Rose as Doolittle. He won a Tony for that role. And Robert Cooper was in the original cast recreating Pickering. And it was everything I had hoped it would be. Just such a wonderful experience. All these years later, I still have the autographed playbill that Christina Andreas signed. My parents, I think, were going to get me a balcony seat, but I made up the difference to sit in the orchestra. And, orchestra tickets, I think, were like under $20 if you went on a Wednesday matinee. So, and I have seen...
It sounded like you said $120. I think you meant under.
No, under $20.
Under $20, right? Yeah.
$100 at that point. The only show that dared was Nicholas Nickleby, and that was like an 8-hour, 2-part show, kind of like Harry Potter is today.
And Nickleby was years later, even. It wasn't even, you're going back to the mid-'70s for My Fair Lady. But no, it's so
Right.
great. I mean, I was very happy to catch the most recent My Fair Lady with Laura Benanti, and I was like, yeah, it's a fabulous show.
I think if I had...
Please.
If I had to name my all-time favorite musical, that would be it. And thinking about it, I've seen all the productions, including the Laura Benanti one, which I liked very much. except for the part where they cut a few verses out of the songs. That is one of the greatest songs. And I would take issue with the fact that Eliza walks into the audience at the end of the show.
Yeah.
George Bernard Shaw would have loved it, but I think Alan J. Lerner would have hated it. But yeah, I saw that production twice. I enjoyed it every time. But this production that I saw in the 70s remains my favorite.
Well, this is what makes us not just theater critics, but theater lovers, theater people. And this is why we wait and we hope and expect that 2021 will be back on target. And I'll see Charlie Gross on the aisle, and we'll be watching him on Two on the Aisle with co-host Leslie Hoban Blake, talking not just about old shows, not just about shows on the computer, but actual real life flesh and blood theater. Charlie Gross, it's been a joy as always having you in the Daverhood.
Always a pleasure, Dave.